Hi. So today we are going to talk about one of the most common problems that writers have, which is getting stuck. Some people call it writer's block. It's just part of the writing process. When I first started writing and I would get stuck, I sort of panicked because I felt like maybe it meant the story wasn't good or that I wasn't a good writer. And I wish I'd known back then what I know now, which is getting stuck happens. It happens all the time. So pretty much every time I sit down to write, at some point, I'm going to get stuck. So I've developed lots of little tricks to get unstuck. I'm going to tell you some of them. You may have your own tricks that work really well for you. So I'm just going to share what I do. One of the first things I do when I'm stuck is I go for a walk. There is just something magical about walking and thinking, and it kind of oils up your brain and the ideas start churning again and your imagination starts going. Usually when I go for a walk, by the time I get back, I'm unstuck. Another thing that I'll do is if I'm writing a story from one character's point of view, I'll switch and write it from another character's point of view. So say I'm writing a story from the point of view of a 12-year-old boy. Maybe I'll switch and I'll write a little bit from the point of view of his younger sister. And so even though I may not use what I write from the point of view of the sister, it's sort of an exercise to help me to look at my story a little bit differently. And often when I'm looking at the story through a different character's eyes, I'll get different ideas about the way the story might go or how the main character might look at the situation. So it's a really easy and sort of fun way to try and get yourself unstuck. Another really simple thing you can do is if you're writing on a computer, switch and write by hand. If you're writing by hand, switch and write on a computer. And sometimes that can sort of jog your brain enough so that you'll sort of get unstuck and start to think of new ways to approach your story. It's a really simple thing to do. Another thing that I'll do to get unstuck is I will write sort of like a journal entry or a diary entry from the point of view of my main character. So I'll pretend that my main character is writing this entry into his or her diary or journal. And that way I can kind of just sort of spill, just be really loose because it's not for the story, so I don't feel like, oh, it has to fit into the story. And sometimes things will pop up about the way your character feels about something that's happening in the story, or the way your character feels about another character, or things that are making your character sad or excited. When you're relaxed and you're not worrying about where your story's going next, it's a really nice way to dig in a little bit deeper into your characters and can really help you to get unstuck. All, when you get stuck, don't panic. There is nothing wrong with your story. There's nothing wrong with your writing. Getting stuck is just part of the writing process. It's totally normal. Happens to all professional writers. We all get stuck, and we've all developed ways to get unstuck. So you can try some things that I've suggested, or maybe you have ways to get unstuck that work really well for you. Experiment, see what works best. Most of all, have fun. If you'd like more tips for young writers, check out my books, Spilling Ink, A Young Writer's Handbook, co-authored by the amazing Ann Mazer, and Writers 911, How to Tackle Writer's Block and Unleash Your Creativity. Both books are available on Amazon and at bookstores everywhere.